Is BPC-157 good for muscle growth? So what if the secret to muscle growth isn't how hard you train, it's how well you recover? I know that sounds obvious, but it flips everything we've been taught. We live in a culture obsessed with more stimulus, more weight, more reps, and I fall into that category most days. But the gym culture says push harder. The supplement industry says eat more protein, and there's a truth to all that, but here's what I think is important to consider, and what almost nobody's talking about is the adaptation to that training stimulus, that neuromuscular adaptation, and your body's ability to get rid of all that waste from workouts. That's going to be the actual muscle growth, the strength gain, the performance improvement. And that all happens during recovery, not during the workout. Every athlete, every high performer, every person who takes their body seriously, like you. And so what if training hard, eating right, sleeping right, and what if you're still leaving like 30, 40, 50% of your results on the table because your tissue repair mechanisms aren't running at full capacity? So I'm Regan Archibald, founder of Ageless Future. It's good to be here talking about BPC-157. Now, this is a compound that I found to be the missing link in that equation for recovery. It was discovered in the stomach, but what the research on it shows is what it does in the muscle, the tendons, the connective tissue, not just in the stomach. And I believe it's nothing short of remarkable. And today we're going to walk through all of it, the history, the biology, and exactly how we build it into protocols at Ageless Futures. BPC-157 was originally isolated from the human gastric juice. Researchers studying its effect found that it had these cytoprotective effects on the gut lining, and they noticed something unexpected. They found in animals, when they were injured in their tendons, ligaments, and muscles, and BPC was administered, the healing was accelerated. I mean, in one study, even the severing of the Achilles tendon of these rabbits, they had almost a 3 times faster healing response than the group that got saline. And so it goes beyond this gut protection hypothesis. And there's a study that's titled Gastric Pentadecapeptide, BPC-157, accelerates healing of the transected Achilles tendon. So the question becomes, what is the compound actually doing that makes it so useful across many different tissue types? I mean, this is like the Swiss Army knife of peptides. And every cell in your body has receptors for BPC. And so if we could figure out how we can optimize these pathways, this is what we have. Our new patent is called the Peptide Pathway Bypass. BPC is one of these enormously beneficial peptides to help create better physical performance, better recovery. And so we're moving from just thinking of it as something in the gastric juice to musculoskeletal medicine. And it took a lot of methodical research looking at bone healing and then ligament repair, then the muscle itself, where each study was building on the last. And what emerged was a picture of a compound that doesn't just protect tissue, it actively orchestrates the entire healing cascade. So the study you'll find in the notes is called Regeneration or Risk, a narrative review of BPC-157 for musculoskeletal and systemic healing and the emerging use of BPC-157 in orthopedic sports medicine. So when you think about it from a historical perspective, here's a peptide that your body naturally produces and concentrates in the stomach. And when researchers started to apply it to injuries outside of the gut, they found that it worked, at least in animal models, which raises a fascinating question. Is this compound part of a broader systemic protection and repair network that we're only beginning to understand? I believe the answer is yes. And I think there's going to be a lot more data in the future. And one thing we're doing is we're working on creating an IRB with PhDs, and we're going to discover what this actually does. And this is where, if we think about muscle growth, I call this the ageless axis, your brain, your heart, and your muscles. And so if you have good muscle health, you're going to have these myokines that inform your brain as far as how young you are and how fit. But, you think of what protects the muscles. It's your testosterone, it's your growth hormone. But BPC, what it's doing is actually helping the muscles repair and recover. arguably one of the most important aspects of it because, when you work out, you have a massive destruction of this tissue makeup, and you'll see it in labs. If you ever want to test to see how much damage you did in the gym, run your blood labs like the day after you did a really hard workout in the gym and do an experiment. But what you'll find is if you have the repair mechanisms, you'll be able to sweep out all that debris much quicker. And the interesting thing about BPC-157, where growth hormone is part of that healing cascade, when we're sleeping at night, and after our workouts, you get a little pulse in growth hormone. But BPC upregulates the growth hormone receptors in tendon fibroblasts. Now, why does that matter? Well, tendons are the mechanical interface between your muscles and your bones. They transmit force. They get microdamaged every time you train intensely. And if you think about if you've ever had any kind of repetitive use injury, maybe you've had tendonitis or golfer's elbow, tennis elbow, you'll know what I mean. But the speed at which you can repair sets the ceiling at how fast you can come back and train again, and how strong the tendons will get over time. But when you upregulate these growth hormone receptors in tendon fibroblasts, you're making those cells more responsive to the growth signals. And this is where stacking growth hormone releasing peptide with BPC is something that can be very advantageous. Think about using like tesamorelin with BPC. There's two pathways that are being optimized here. One is called the JAK2. The other one is the FAK-Paxillin signaling pathways. Now, these are signaling pathways involved how cells respond to mechanical stress, how they migrate to the sites of injury. You want new cells to help your body recover. BPC-157 activates both. So what that means practically is faster fibroblast migrations. These cells are responsible for laying down new connective tissue to the injury site quicker, so you can start recovering sooner. And here's something that matters a lot for anyone who's dealt with a significant injury, anyone who's older, finding that recovery just isn't what it used to be. BPC-157 can actively combat that muscle atrophy. In models of denervation, where the nerve supply to the muscle is compromised, BPC-157 significantly reduced atrophy and preserved muscle mass. Now that's profound because preserving muscle mass is the goal, and muscle atrophy, and something that we're all going to face at some stage of life, is that sarcopenia that we want to avoid. So another study, they found that BPC-157 actually helps heal the heart. And BPC is interesting because it does have this angiogenesis component that's also critical. That's the one thing that heals both tendons and everything else, and what our bodies need to heal, not only our heart, tendons, muscles, it's blood flow, it's nutrient delivery, it's oxygen. So when you can remove the inflammatory waste, and then you get the activation. This is where BPC in your body kicks in to promote new blood vessel formation. That's what angiogenesis is. Right at the injury site, you're literally rebuilding an infrastructure that makes healing possible. So when you put it all together, faster cell migration, upregulated on the growth hormone receptors, activated repair pathways, VEGF activation, anti-atrophy effects, and enhanced blood flow to the damaged tissue, now you have an environment where recovery happens faster, more completely, more consistently. And with this ageless axis, you're also getting dopamine modulation. So you're working on the brain, the blood vessels, and the muscles directly. So the belief that recovery is passive, it's just what happens when we sleep or rest, that is the absence of training. Recovery is not passive. Recovery is an active biological process, and it takes a lot of work. If you've ever had that brain fog, like I've experienced a lot after a heavy workout, big mountain bike ride, you can feel the change happening in your body, and it's not always pleasant, but your results are only as good as your body's ability to execute that process of recovery. So how many times have you pushed through soreness and gone back to the gym too soon? How many athletes do you know? Or maybe this is you, where you're chronically under-recovered. I always get frustrated when I look at my watch and I'm like, this morning I had poor recovery, 1, because I've been pushing pretty hard. But I am in that category, I understand. But there's a missing link that I keep coming back to. The training stimulus is only half of the equation. And I've noticed with the utilization of thymosin beta-4, BPC-157, it creates a massive adaptation. My muscles repair quicker, tendons feel stronger, neuronal optimization, it feels sharper. If you're not optimizing these signaling pathways in your body, you're leaving a lot of gains on the table, and you're accumulating this biological debt that will eventually come due in the form of injury or plateau or burnout, or you just don't want to work out. So BPC-157, it doesn't replace the stimulus from training. It amplifies your body's adaptability to it. And it shortens the gap between damage and repair. And when gap shrinks, you can train more consistently, you can recover more completely and adapt more fully. And that compounds over time. Think about months and years of a complete biological transformation. That's how you build the physical capacity that most people only dream about. So the people we work with, just like you, they're high-performing entrepreneurs, they have families, they have businesses. They really want to be at their peak performance, and they understand, as I've learned, is that exercise is what keeps me sane. It keeps me balanced. And so if you can have a recovery optimization that allows you to continually serve at a deeper level, and you can find the bottlenecks and open those up, you'll start seeing that, one of the limitations is going to be that recovery. And so by jumping in using lab testing, one of the things at Ageless Future is everything starts with testing. Don't just jump on a peptide, and any peptide you can get online may not be the right thing for you, because everyone can be limited if you don't have the right ingredients. And we'll talk more about that in some other videos, but step one is get your blood labs done. Step two is look at body composition analysis. So we want to learn how your lean mass is versus your fat mass, and DEXA scan is a gold standard. But you want a baseline. I remember one of my clients, he was frustrated because he's like, I only lost 11 pounds. I've worked with you guys for a year, but he looked like a different human. When he started, he was 61 at the time. We ran his DEXA scan, and we said, wow, and now we have objective data to measure our intervention again. And we found that he put on, he lost roughly 33 pounds of fat tissue, and he gained the equivalent 33.6 pounds of lean tissue. So that's impressive. Step two is you want to look at your training load assessment. So this is where Nikki, our fitness advisor in the office, she's phenomenal. She's got her master's degree in exercise physiology. And every client that we work with, they have an app, and this is how we spy on you. So we make sure you're working out and getting your steps in, and how your eating is and your recovery. But she puts in very specific loads for you. And then we want to find out, do you have chronic inflammation? If there's injuries, we have a no pain policy. This is where regenerative medicine becomes really important, because that's how you can build capacity without threatening your body to have more setbacks from these injuries. So once we've done those, now we can develop a very specific protocol. What do you need to eat? What are the best supplements for you? And this is what makes all the change in the world, because if you had one thing that you could do in the next 90 days that would give you 5 years of progress, you want to think about these organs that you want optimized into your 80s, 90s, 100s, and that's your brain, your muscle, and your heart, your cardiovascular system. BPC does seem to treat all of those, and all of our BPC does come through 503 licensed pharmacies. Our clinical providers are world-class in getting you exactly what you need. So if you want to go deeper in your health and really find out if BPC-157 is right for you, go to agelessfuture.com. I'm Regan Archibald. I'll see you on the next video.